Alright, one take, no notes. Let's do this. Jon Jones sucks. He's terrible. He's a horrible person. And he's still holding up the heavyweight division. As you can see on the screen right here, there is a petition that's been started by a meme page on Instagram. Where's his name? Tony Has Died. That has 85,000 signatures. It's a petition to strip Jon Jones of his belt, which, he should be. The UFC won't, though. They're cowards. Dana's a coward. He doesn't do his job properly. It's kind of baffling at this point, especially like you look at Jones when he won the title. He won it in March of 2023. That was over 2 years ago. It took him almost 2 years to defend his title against someone who didn't deserve it. It's just crazy. And what I think a lot of people forget about is this didn't just start with the Aspinall fight. Like, at first it was Sergey Pavlovich. At the time, I believe it would have been a month after he beat Gane, Pavlovich knocked out Blades. And people were saying, oh, okay, well, obviously we do Blades versus... not Blades, we do Pavlovich versus Jones now. That seemed to be like the next logical thing. But then Jones said, I want to fight Stipe. And it was looking like that was going to happen in July, which was only, 4 months away from when Jones won the belt. And I think everyone was collectively kind of okay with that. They were like, okay, quick turnaround. You've been out for ages. If you want to take 4 months, get your Stipe fight, and then fight, a deserving contender afterwards, whatever. You've earned it. But he didn't do that July date. He didn't do, a date before that. He chose November. He got injured. He can't control that, right? But he, at a certain point, he took over a year to get back in there, still fighting Stipe. By that point, the boogeyman of the division had been knocked out by the new boogeyman. Where is he? This man right here, Tommy Aspinall, who's now 8-1 in the division after having to defend his interim belt, which is goofy. That's stupid. That hasn't been seen in ages. Like, you think, like, Henan Barral, I think was the last guy that had to do that. Maybe Andrei Arlovsky back in the day. But it's just not something that you see very often, because it's stupid. It's not... The interim belt isn't meant to be defended. It's a glorified number one contender position. It's just there, to cement the fact that a guy should be fighting for the title next. Even though they've been used pretty liberally and pretty stupidly as of recent, like with Yair. Yair getting a title, that's a whole separate topic. I might start making videos again just on random stuff. Yeah, well, I've lost my train of thought. Point being, that's 85,000 people. At the very least now, I think Dana's going to be asked about it at a press conference. He's going to have to answer. He's going to probably call someone a goofball, get some classic Dana White. What does a guy have to do? And Tommy's just come out and he's just said, he teased something. But then, in a comment section, he's like making jokes about fighting for the interim BMF heavyweight belt. So I don't know if that was his actual announcement or not, or if it's just trolling. It's probably I hope. Look, at this point, man, I'd take Aspinall versus Gane, unless it's a defending the interim belt, which is different. If it's for the if they just promote Aspinall and then say your first defense is against Gane, that's fine. Gane's, he didn't beat Volkov, but, the judges gave it to him because he's a French star. He would be, I think, what's he ranked, like number 2 right now? Look at that, number 2. Sure, whatever. That would be a good name. That's one of the only names that Tom hasn't fought. Like, you look at the guys here that Jones has fought. Gane. That's it. And he did make pretty easy work of Gane, to be fair. Like, credit where it's due. He made Gane look, honestly, kind of pathetic. And I remember going into that fight, I was very heavily in favour of Gane. I thought Gane was going to clean him. I thought it'd be too elusive. But no, he just got taken down and subbed straight away. And credit to Jones, I think, when you look at his heavyweight run, he's, obviously he's older, he's slower. I think anyone trying to deny that is just zip it back up after you're done, sort of thing. It's weird, those type of people. But then you can see he's using his fight IQ a lot more when he's at heavyweight, it is, as much as I don't like him, it is very cool to see, because he is clearly a very intelligent fighter. Yeah. But I don't think that would be enough against Tom, right? Like, at a certain point, fight IQ isn't going to help you against a guy with a 2-minute average fight time who's bigger than you, taller than you, stronger than you, has better technical boxing, has technical jiu-jitsu, you know. He's been training jiu-jitsu since he was a kid. I think his dad was the first black belt, Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt in the UK, something like that. So that's part of his base. He isn't just a striker. Like, I remember when he subbed Volkov in a round, he was talking about how like he didn't really want to have to reveal it because he wanted to get to the top without revealing his full skill set, so people wouldn't know much about him. So I think there's still kind of a bit of a misconception from people thinking that he just has the hands, just the straight down the pipe 1-2, when really he's a very dynamic sort of a guy, and we just haven't seen that because there hasn't been anyone good enough to push him apart from Andrei Arlovsky, who took him into the second round. If Andrei hadn't taken him into the second round, I think his average fight time would have to be like a minute and a half or something. Point being, I'm all over the place, but I'm having fun recording this, so it doesn't matter. He would beat Jon. Jon is scared. Jon is a baby. He wants to have his title stripped so we can pretend like, I just want to, the UFC wouldn't put it together. No, pretty clearly the UFC wants to put it together. Maybe not yet, because they want to have it as leverage for their for the broadcasting deal that they're in free agency, or whatever the correct term would be. They're looking for a new provider, and having that saying, hey, we've got the greatest of all time right here against his toughest test. That's quite an appealing, or I imagine that would be quite an appealing, sort of a bargaining chip to have. To say, we can put on this big show. Even though I don't even know how big it... Like, I know within the hardcores and the semi-hardcores maybe, because, Jones is sort of a... Casualish people know who Jones is. You're not going to find a random person on the street who knows who Jones is, but you'll find, someone who pops into the UFC here and there. They know who he is. But he's no Conor McGregor, he's no Khabib, he's no Rousey. He's no one like that. It's just weird. Dana White's a little weirdo. He got kicked off the the promotion team for his little Crawford card, little Crawford Canelo card, because it's on the same night as his baby, the Mexico card. Oh god, he's not doing his job. Point being, again, all over the place. Jones is pathetic. Tom, Giga Chad Tom, kind of. He's a bit awkward, but better than someone who's hit and running pregnant ladies. And then what did he say to the officer when he was being arrested? I think he called him like officer jerk or something. Like the mental capacity of a 5-year-old. He's gone around Thailand when he has kids at home. Not to say if you're a parent you can't go on holiday, but like you should be around your family, saying he's living his best life. Why don't you live your best life raising your children? Like a good father would. Yeah, he's talking about how he's a role model and that. It's like, you are in no way a role model. This is turning into more of a Jones hate rant, but I think that was kind of inevitable. Try not to glaze Tommy too much. It's frustrating. It's a little frustrating. And I feel like, especially because we're not going to get, unless this Tom interview is a fight announcement, which is probably just going to be a sponsorship or something. If that turns out to be nothing, we're not going to hear anything for ages. Because if the fight is going to happen, it won't. But if it does, there's only one time of the year, one venue it's going to be, and that's November in MSG. So because Jones wants to pick and choose where he's fighting, which at a point, fair enough, but also at a point, don't fight once a year. That's who are you, Shavkat Rakhmonov? You come in once a year and then peace out, and then are injured again. It's again a whole nother thing. It's ridiculous. This whole Jon Jones era. Volkov came out the other day and said, by now, if Jones wasn't the champion, if this had been, treated fairly, he would have been able to fight for a title by now, which on one hand sounds slightly entitled, but on the other, like, you do see where he's coming from. Because there wouldn't have been, a logjam at the top. He probably wouldn't have had to have fought Cyril Gane. They could have just given him a title shot. Off his win over Sergey Pavlovich, which I think would have been fair. Because that was a super surprising, cool performance. But Tom's just trapped. Maybe it's for the better for Tom, because he bit Volkov in the first round, bit Sergey in the first round. After, obviously, he had the first fight with Curtis. But in their rematch, knocked him out in the first round. Hasn't fought Jailton Almeida. That'll be an interesting one. I hear they're trying to make a Volkov Almeida. Justice for Volkov, but that's fine. Spivak he knocked out in a round. Tabora he knocked out in a round. And Lewis, he's not sniffing a title shot. And Tai Tuivasa, if he can, someone show him what a salad is, then maybe he'll get under 400 pounds and can get back in the cage eventually. And then you look at these up and coming guys. Waldo Cortez Acosta, like he's decent. He's alright. I don't think he'll make it to a title shot though. Shamil Kazeev, with good matchmaking, he might be able to make it to a title shot, but he's not going to beat Tom. He's just not. He's maybe the size, But I just think technically on the feet, he's knocking out jobbers in that, and I they're just not on the same level as Tom. Slick Parkin with his teammates with Aspinall, but Aspinall, I think when he was asked, it was something like, "Would you ever fight McParkin, or do you think he's going to make it up the ranks?" And he literally laughed. And I think Mick probably, his fight with Tabora was close, but if you shouldn't be making a fight with Tabora close if you're ever going to be anything. Taliesin Teixeira, interesting guy. Very tall, pretty powerful. Fighting Derek Lewis, apparently, in a main event, in my suffering. Which, cool, whatever. Jumping him 5 spots up. One fight, bit Justin Tafa, suddenly you're ranked number 14. I suppose that's what you get when there's only, 29 fighters in the UFC, in the heavyweight division, because it was 30, then they cut Rosenstruck for some reason. And then Martin Boudet, who's not going anywhere. He's already lost to the meal deal Gazeev. And then you think of I can't even really think of unranked heavyweights off the top of my head right now. Maybe I'm a casual, maybe I'm not. That's fine. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say at this point. Jon Jones, his career's weird. If he wasn't injured and committing felonies all the time, who knows? Maybe he'd have a lot more fights. Maybe Tom would be champion, as he rightfully deserves by now. Not the point though. 85,000 signatures. Go sign it. Look up Jon Jones petition. Find it. Sign it. Make Dana have an awkward moment at a press conference. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.